Yes, I don't know. Are we ready? Okay, I'll call this meeting to order and welcome everybody to September 19th, 2017. We'll call it 6 o'clock. This time I need approval of the agenda. So move. We got a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Ayes have it. Invocation and pledge. Proud to have our very own Terry Creek come in, Planning and Zoning Secretary and Army veteran.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, sorry. Let's pray. Thank you, O God, Creator of heaven and earth, for giving us food, fresh air, fresh water, shelter, freedom. We realize we're living in perilous times, and things will only be getting worse as we get closer to the end. Thank you for this last little bit of peace that you've given us in this little corner of Georgia. Please use whatever it takes, good or bad, to bring us to repentance, to cause us to desire truth, to stay on the right path, and to purpose to live our lives as your servants to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Creek, you want to tell us about your service to the country? Very proud of you.
Thank you. I was in the U.S. Army between 1974 and 1980 at the height of the Cold War. I went in right out of high school. For my training, they sent me to Russian school and cryptology school. And my first duty station was NSA at Fort Meade, Maryland. So for a year I was there and I worked in the actual original NSA building. And if you've ever wondered what the real NSA looks like inside, at least back in the 70s, I remember long white hallways lined with locked doors, and every door was a different color. It was very strange. Anyway, that was the one main thing I remember, sorry, about working there. Then,
I didn't do it.
Just hit the,
what?
just hit that. Let's see if we do it. There's a, you see it? Okay. All right. So, after that, after being over there for a year at Fort Meade, I was sent to Field Station Augsburg in Germany and spent 3 years there. Our mission there was to intercept Russian military training communications in East Germany, figure out what they were doing, write reports about it, and send them back to NSA. And my specialty was Russian artillery. So, the main thing, well, what I remember was, it was right at the very beginning of the computer age. And so, we had, I don't know if it was cutting edge technology, but the first computer I worked on, it looked like a cube, about like this, with a little screen about like this that glowed green, and it had a DOS operating system. So, and all we could do on it was log files. So that. And then later on, they progressed and got us these other terminals that were all kind of linked together, and we could actually do word processing and transmit our stuff to another office. And the only way, there was no internet, So the only way we could communicate, like we had to secure means of communication with NSA and Fuel Station Berlin, we had a little teletype machine. You could actually type on it, whatever, cross the ocean or whatever it is. So around sometime in 1980, I got pregnant and I decided that I wanted to retire from the military to become a full-time mother. So that's what I did, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who can do it. Also homeschool. But that was my Army career. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Terry. This time we're looking at a consent agenda and approval for minutes. You have a corrected version in front of you. Disregard the one in your notebook. Anybody had an opportunity to look at it? We need got first Tuesday, September 5th, 2017. The only thing we have.
So moved, Jim.
We have a motion. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Have it. Have no visitors. Under new business, award bids for LMEG, Local Maintenance Improvement Grant Striping Project. Mr. Resner, I think you have received a bid on that one.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You'll recall that a few weeks back we had originally bid out this the striping work associated with our LMEG project. The bid, we received one bid in that initial bid solicitation, and it was substantially over the budget that we had, and in fact it was about double what we had anticipated. And so at that time the commission rejected those bids and we rebid. We did only receive one bid the second go round, but it was about $20,000 less than that original the bid we received in the first solicitation. And I've handed out to you a little sheet that shows the sources of LMEG funding that we have available, the amount of the paving base bid, the amount of the alternate paving bid, and then the striping bid that we received. The striping bid was $32,640, and even with all that added together, we still have a surplus of $27,969.07. So my recommendation to you would be to award the bid to Mid-State Striping in the amount of $32,640.
Any questions for Mr. Resner? If none, I need a motion. So moved. We have a motion, second.
Second.
Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 2 on new business. Approval to go out for bid for 6 2018 Dodge Chargers for the Sheriff's Department. I guess you've got that one too.
I'll take that one too. In your books there, you have a request from the sheriff to go out for bid for 6 2018 Dodge Chargers. In the 2015 SPLOST, I believe my understanding is that the money there allocated for law enforcement was intended to be used for Sheriff's Department vehicles, and so each year they purchase 6 new vehicles and to change out their fleet, I suppose. And so the sheriff is just requesting that these 6 cars be put out for bid.
Any questions for Jason?
State bid list. We don't use that.
That's the state. Isn't it a state contract? Isn't it? That will they go out on the state contract? How will they do that?
I think typically what we've done is just put it out for bid like you would anything else. Now, I feel pretty certain that there are state contract prices available on Dodge Chargers, and so we could certainly get that. I mean, you could opt to just go with the state contract prices. That's already been bid out, or we could just do a more traditional bid process. And
I think one of the things with state contract, it would
it would specify Dodge, Ford, Chevrolet, but you still got multiple Dodge dealers in the region, so that's who you're bidding it from, between Dodge dealers. So you're still specifying a Charger, but you're bidding it because state contract will only give you the set amount no matter what dealer you go to. So you're stuck with that. This is probably one of the few times that a state contract might hurt you, but then it would always be good to look at the end of the bid that you get in to make sure that it's actually lower than state contract.
I want to make sure that we know that number so we don't get stuck.
Okay, any more questions, Mr. Redder? None? Need a motion to approve these 6 Dodge Chargers go out for bid.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Moving on to new business number 3, Otis Redding Bridge dedication. Mr. Pitts at Harrison. Mr. Redder, I think you said you'd cover that point.
Yes, sir. As you're all aware, over a year ago, I believe, the board voted to rename the bridge on the bypass the Otis Redding Memorial Bridge, and so we've gone through the state legislative process. Susan Holmes was kind enough to introduce a resolution on behalf of the board, and it worked its way through the General Assembly, and we've been working with DOT to put together a bridge dedication ceremony. That'll be held on Saturday at noon at the Otis Redding marker in town, at the right there in town at Main Street Station, the building there. And so we'd love for everybody to come out to that. The Redding family has been working with us closely to put all that together. I think Commissioner Pitts is going to make some remarks, and I think he might be as well. And then we'll have some refreshments there. So, and we're trying to determine now if we can go out to the bridge location and actually see it unveiled after we do the ceremony in town. But
sounds great. Thank you very much. Any more discussion on that? Then we'll go forward with old business. Purchasing policies and ordinance. I know we had a week we missed with bad weather, so you want to elaborate on what we're going to be working on for the next meeting, or I guess 2 meetings from now, because you'll be at a class on our next meeting, right?
That's right. I might be able to do it over the phone, but we have an ordinance, and I think I gave a copy of this to everybody. If there are people in the audience that would like one, I've got some extras here that I'll leave on the table. This ordinance is one that we looked at something close to this going back to the retreat, and I kind of wanted to go through it. I've added some things since then and made some modifications, and I just kind of wanted to hit the high points tonight, get feedback from the group, and just see where you would like to go with some of these, and we'll have it ready to go for the next meeting in a form that you can go ahead and proceed with the first reading on. So, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'll just talk through, and on this I've highlighted certain sections there, and that's kind of what I'll talk through. So, kind of at the bottom of the first page there, it says no county employee shall make any purchase or allow a purchase to be made until appropriation therefore has been approved by the county commission as part of the annual operating budget or as prescribed in this chapter. So there has to be money available in the budget before a purchase can be made. And it says that this board must approve any purchase that aren't a part of or exceed the annual operating budget. The next section talks about purchase orders, and the last time we discussed this topic, we talked a little bit about purchasing cards, and so the way this is written right now is that it anticipates that we would have purchasing cards that would allow department heads to use them up to $500. So under the exceptions there, basically says a purchase order must be obtained before placing orders and making purchases with the following exceptions. Purchases under $500 made with a purchasing card, utilities, attorney's fees, engineering fees, things like that. Purchase order number should only be issued after completion of the authorized request form. If you flip over to page 3, there's a chart there that summarizes the purchasing levels, what sort of approvals are required, and so in that $0 to $499 line item, purchase order required, no. If you're using the card, the department head approves it. One quote, that quote could be oral or written, and there's no notice requirement there. And so as you go up through these different levels, there's is progressively more, or there are more requirements as the dollar amount goes up. And so and then I've got this capping out at $20,000. So above $20,000, the board has to approve the expenditure, and and we go through a formal bid process. And then right below that, there's an item that says purchases shall not be divided for the purposes of evading more stringent requirements. Just to keep from splitting up projects and purchases to make it easier to buy things. At the top of page 4, there are exceptions to the bid and quote requirement. So a statewide contract would be one. A collaborative entity such as U.S. Communities that's already bid the item. Purchases made pursuant to an intergovernmental agreement. Single source purchases where only one vendor or product can provide the needed good or services, and professional services. There are 2 provisions there, number 2 and number 3 below that say the county administrator could waive requirements under $20,000 in a case of an emergency, or where the purchase is inappropriate for competitive bidding due to the nature of the item, time constraints, etc. And then above $20,000, the board could waive for those same reasons. Okay, over on page 5. Towards the bottom there, I added some language about local preference, and we talked a little bit about that last time. Just kind of in thinking through what local means, I know we had some discussion about that last time. For this pass at doing this ordinance, I went with kind of a broad definition of local, just because we do have challenges sometimes in getting bids. And so I broadened the scope of it just to try to get more bids. My fear was that if you confine it to just one county, we might kind of further handicap ourselves when it comes to getting additional bids. So I've got Jones County and then all the surrounding counties that we share a border with. And then I've got it divided into 2 tiers. So where the project amount is less than $25,000, a qualified local bidder must be within 5% of the lowest responsible bidder. And then where the amount's $25,000 or greater, the qualified local bidder must be within 2.5%. And basically, what it does is it gives that low bidder an opportunity to match. It gives the local bidder an opportunity to match the low bidder. And then that's about all I had highlighted there. I'll stop and just answer any questions or comments from the board.
Would be advisable to have a work session prior to the next meeting on this to look at your draft to see? Because I mean, only things it took a while for us to get the bid amount down to, in years past for the board to get the bid amount down to 10,000. I'd hate to see that change. Personally, I would. I don't know how the board feels on that. only thing I have with the matching the lowest bid, I know if I was a contractor, I'd put in the work to get this, and if somebody had an opportunity to match my bid and get it, it would set well with me on that. That would be my two concerns. If it would be, you know, better suited to have a work session prior to the meeting that we have this done, where we can discuss it further. That'd be good with the board. What's your thoughts?
I think with the exception of a couple of those items, he's probably right on the money. Again, I don't agree with the match. I do believe or agree with the 5% overall for the county, in county. I'm not sure that the 2.5, you know, should be adjusted as the bid increment goes up. And 25,000, I was a fan of that number as opposed to the 10, just because it made more sense. Do we need to have a work session? I think he's pretty good with it.
Commissioner Robinson, you got any input on it?
Have a work session or not, either way is fine.
Mr. Kitchen?
So you're saying the formal bid from back down to 10,000 instead of the 20,000? The bid process?
For years, we were up there, and it created a problem. I think it's going to give us more, you know, leverage as far as using the economy to our favor if we keep it at 10 on the bid amount. Like I said, it was a long time in coming for the board to get it back down to 10. And I think, you know, in just my personal opinion, I like the idea of keeping it at 10, look where it is now, so that we do get that opportunity to use the economy in our favor.
I agree, and I would go as far as the 2,000 to 10,000 is at least have the county administrator, you know, in on the purchase. Because there's a lot of line items that barely have 10,000 in them, and if we can spend all of that line item in one purchase, you know, when we get to the next purchase, it might be a little late to know that.
I'd love to see a purchasing agent also. That way we've got, not Mr. Risner not capable of handling it, but I think we had a purchasing agent that we had more than one person to go to, agent or agents, that we had more than one person accountable as far as when the purchase goes, to make sure that, because after looking through some of the reports we've got back, we're still lacking purchase orders on a lot of our purchases, and that's got to stop.
I agree. If we are going to implement a card process, purchase card, you're going to need a purchasing agent to oversee that program, because it's a monthly activity that you're going to have to, department heads are going to have to communicate with somebody to take care of that.
More discussion.
What was your comment on the local preference as far as matching? Well, if you're talking about matching a bid, if it's a sealed bid, they wouldn't know it until the bids are open.
Yeah, but think if I were on the job and I sit there and let's say that I put in a week's worth of work to get this bid, and I got it by 2.5%, and the local man didn't put in that number. Let's say he was 2.5% higher, and he was allowed to have it match the bid. I've never been a fan of bid matching. You know.
Yeah.
It's just like you go to somebody, I can build your house for $50, and then the guy said, well, if he'll do it for 50, I'll do it for 49. You know.
Yeah.
That's.
I agree. I agree with this percentage. Your local preference is your local preference. Everybody knows it going into it, and I mean the whole reason for that is to give preference to people that live here, have business here, pay taxes here, support our local economy, to give them consideration. So yeah, that's because that can work in both directions. A good match. I agree.
So would we want to just take that out altogether?
Take out the bid match wording.
I wouldn't do the bid match. My personal thing, you go the 2.5% for the greater project, which would be, you know, I see why you went to a lesser percentage, because you're going to be creating more money. But as far as allowing them to match it, I don't know, I know if I was a contractor bid on it, I'd have a problem on it if I had it and the local guy was able to match it, that would be, I don't know that bid again, how's that?
Just so we're clear, can it be a flat 5% regardless of bid amount?
I think the 5% what he's got now for the less than 25 and the 2.5 for over 25, because you start doing 5% over that, you get a.
I mean, at 100,000, you're only talking $5,000. And a single guy competing against, a larger corporation, again, 5% is barely going to keep him in the game at that number. Because in my opinion, his cost of equipment and material is still going to be higher. Again, I think 5%. I think if you got over $1 million, then 2.5 may come into play. Because even on 100,000, again, you're at $5,000 on $1 million. You're talking $50,000.
But with a lot of bids, like the higher the gross amount, a lot of times the contractors will lower their percentage.
I understand.
So you're narrowing the gap even more. So if they're going to lower their percentage, I think we need to, in my opinion, we need to lower our percentage too, as far as the percentage where we.
We'll fight for the little guy to have a little bit more wiggle room.
That's just my suggestion. We all have our opinion.
Thank God I got a vote.
If we don't do the matching, is there another way to carry it out? I don't know how to. There's probably some other way to administer it without a match component, but that's the way most of them I've seen work. Is if there's a local bidder within whatever percent, they're given an opportunity to match that guy. So I think if we take that away, then I don't know what we're left with. You know what I mean?
Just go, if we take that away and go with 5%, if they're beat by, which I mean, a lot of our projects aren't going to be that, not like we're getting in the high end. So 5,000 on 100, yeah, I can see that. But I'm just saying, if we ever got in, we might want to revisit that on if we get into some major projects that are going to get up in the hundreds of thousands. We might want to look at that.
I would say projects over $1 million, 2.5 would be appropriate. Again, we're still only talking, 22.5. But anything up to, $1 million, 5% for a local match option, I think is fair.
I'm fine with that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like us to have a work session.
How long we need? Half-hour work session be enough before the next meeting for that?
I think these two solved this problem in the last 5 minutes, in my opinion.
Mr. Kitchen?
It doesn't matter to me. I got all my questions answered.
Me too.
Unless we got them all. Well, this is assuming a purchasing card. We're going to talk about that.
I think you could probably. This anticipates having one. I think you could. It doesn't necessarily say you have to have one. But yeah, that would open up a situation where we got to have develop a purchasing card policy and that kind of thing. And there are those out there that I've taken a look at, certainly. But I think you could probably proceed with this and then get into that at a later time if you wanted to, or you can take that language out of this.
Why don't we do this? Because you got take-home vehicles too, which you'll need to have. Why don't we do just a 30-minute work session prior to the next meeting? Surely we can get through both of those in 30 minutes. That way you can answer any questions prior to the meeting. How's that sound? Is that all right for you? Okay, work session. Going to the next thing of old business is proposal for the take-home vehicles.
All right. And I'm going to send something around to y'all on this. This is another one where just would ask for just comments back from the board and I've done some looking around at other counties and governments, and there are all sorts of different ways to get at it. And so I've got portions of about 4 different policies here for you to look at, and this is another one. We don't have to hammer this out tonight. So the first one there is Bullock County. It's very detailed, and they use a economic benefit calculation when they're trying to decide who gets a vehicle and who doesn't. Looking at the private vehicle reimbursement versus what it would cost to have them commute in a county vehicle, and they have a variety of other requirements there. If you flip over about 5 pages into this, there's a policy from Pierce County. It's one that they just adopted recently, and theirs basically says that county vehicles, take-home vehicles, are determined by the Board of Commissioners, and so it gives a process for bringing things to the board. It does talk about law enforcement, EMA director, and road department supervisors being 3 that it specifies in the policy. Beyond that, I guess it's a call of the board. There's another policy there that has vehicle classifications, and this one talks a little bit about qualified commuting use, IRS regulations, what's taxable and what's not. And then the final policy there is one more different take on it, which kind of looks at how often an employee gets called out as a criteria for determining if they need a vehicle. And it's average of 4 times per month over the preceding 3 months, and then weigh factors like that in determining who gets one and who doesn't. So there are a lot of different directions you can go with this, and I'm certain there are some places that just specify a list of who gets them. So I guess I kind of come to you just in any direction y'all might have for me tonight, and then we can talk about it further at the work session.
To be clear, we're paying the IRS tax value on them now for all vehicles.
I'm not sure what we're doing on that, to be honest with you. I'd have to check and see.
I don't think that anybody is paying either the $3 rule or the tax value once a year out of the paycheck.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And I don't know that the whole intent of this is not to punish or hurt any employee that's got something now. It's being good stewards of the taxes and the dollars that we have. I don't like I'm not a fan of the economic value of it, and I'm definitely not a fan of, even though we have that opportunity, I'm not a fan of the board determining on a case-by-case basis who gets what and what vehicle, because I think that just opens us up to make bad decisions for this board, future boards, whatever. It's not a good practice to start. I think it needs to be needs-based or duty-based and determined by that factor. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody in public works or somebody in recreation. If they're using that vehicle in the course of their job after hours, that should be the need priority for having that vehicle. So that gets back into, how many times are they called out on emergency calls? That gets real tough to determine, because I think any of the departments that have emergency on calls, 1 week you may have 6 calls, and you might not have one for 3 weeks. But I would rather have somebody on call when we need them, and instead of justifying that they don't need a vehicle and then need them on call. So I think that's where our hurdle is, determining what the need and what the priority of the need is. And I think all of it exempts sheriff's department, emergency personnel that are on call, fire rescue, on call all the time.
Mr. Roberts? You got any comment?
I agree with everything the commission said. I'm assuming that we're still talking about going forward, not changing the ones that already affected.
Mr. Martin?
How many cars do we currently have out?
I counted back in April, and I think I counted 28. I don't have the list with me, but I emailed all the department heads and asked them to submit a list, and I think that's what it is.
Can we get an inventory where they are? I don't really care about who's using it, but where they are, the department, year, make, model, miles, because that has a lot to do with it. And I think I would agree that I'm not a fan of implementing something on people that currently have it as a benefit, considering some of the salaries that we pay. And based on some of the ages of the vehicle, they're probably already aged out, to the point where we should be paying you to drive it. So I'm at a point where, I'd like to see it. So before we make any decisions on that.
Can we get that list by leaving names off, job title? I think it's the fairest way, because I don't want I don't need to know who's driving. Just this is the position, and then the need matches the position. So it doesn't have to be. We don't want to say this person needs one, this person doesn't. It needs to be the need.
And I would ask department heads, if y'all know the call out process already and who you're sending out and how often that happens. I know water department has it fairly frequently, same with public works. That would be a nice to have, so we see how frequent these vehicles are actually being used. And I think it adds some value to it.
More discussion? I think we'll do two, since Jason's going to not be here the first meeting next month, have it on the second meeting we have of next month, have the work session prior to that, to give you time to get everything together and be here rather than over the phone. On that work session, we'll have it on that agenda. Okay. Any more discussion on that? Moving forward, department head. Graham, I'll start with you.
Yes, sir. I just got a few things. I think everybody knows that we were intent when I started with the class about the school. All 159 counties in the state of Georgia went under a state of emergency in 10. Of course, we went under a local state of emergency next. I've had a flood of calls asking for assistance. I think people get confused about when they hear a declaration, whether there's a state of emergency declaration or public assistance declaration or a individual assistance declaration. There's only been 2 counties in the state of Georgia that's under IA, which is an individual assistance declaration. Jones County is not one. We are under a public assistance declaration, which means any damage to any roadways, signs, or anything like that that have been damaged, something pushed down, bridges, anything of that type. And emergency services like us working with the 10 house fires that caused by generator use because of the storm, or down lines, or down trees, or whatever. We can claim assistance for that. And we've got to get very well in that. John has, water department has documented several things that we have to do with generators and stuff like that. But anyway, we'll be visited by FEMA, or FEMA, and FEMA, and we'll come up with some figures and I'll present them to the board. We'll see what we can do. Typically, we can get back 8%. I think the last time was 14 through. we got back $319,000. I don't think that we'll see that this go around, but it could be up to $100,000. And I don't think that they'll ultimately in a pilot plan where we got 10% forward if we got all of that work in 30 days. But I think that pilot has been great. So we'll be ready anyway. We'll have a very good day to bring that anyway. So if they offer it, we'll take it. But people have been asking about, hey, my group has been to all pieces. I want to, I actually sent out 3 or 4 emails this afternoon. And it has to do with groups or a tree fell on the roof on the house, whatever. That will not be covered under that declaration because we're under open assistance declaration. I think y'all know about that. So don't be confused about that. The emails I sent you, evidently they're clicking on our website through the county and asking me questions about it. And I think that's been wanting to get rid of a lot of conversation. But just don't want to get mixed up with the PA versus the IA. We are under the PA, which is the Public Assistance Declaration, which is streets, that kind of thing, and public service. Also, the overtime for the sheriff's office has been documented on them. Fuel and everything. So, I'm saying all that, there's a whole lot to be involved. We've got on this end as far as documentation. Our radios, I know this has been ongoing, it's been months. All the radios were installed, and all of our apparatuses today, including the city. We will go live a week from tomorrow. We're going to do a 2-day in-service with all of the county employees and the county volunteers, so they know how to work with the radios and all that. We'll go live tomorrow, which will be overnight, just like that. Transition. Last thing, I want to read this letter that I received today, and I'd say that it's probably appropriate to say names. This was dated September 15, 2017, to Director Don Gray. On August 26, 2017, my husband, Danny Roberts, was cleaning brush around his hunting plot in Jones County. He texted me that he needed help. Upon arriving at the hunting plot, I'm just reading this exactly the way it is. My daughter and I could not locate him. Naturally, we were panicking that we could not find him. I called Jones County 911 for assistance in locating him. The Jones County deputy arrived on the scene and called for Jones County Rescue help. Wayne Greer, which is lieutenant at Station 10, East Highway, and several rescue unit helped conduct the search. Unfortunately, they were not able to locate him until 2.5 hours later, and he had passed away from heat stroke. I want to personally express my appreciation for the kind and caring way that the Jones County Rescue Unit handled the situation, especially Wayne Greer. Actually, he was the first one to send. He's our chaplain too. So, he kept me up to date with what the rescue unit was doing and with how they were conducting the search. He was also very kind and supportive when they discovered that he had passed away. And he said a prayer and everything. When he came by, we gave him home and attended the funeral. During this time, when all we hear are negative events concerning first responders and law enforcement, I wanted to be sure that you receive some positive feedback on what an outstanding and dedicated group of individuals you have on your mission. I really appreciate all they did for me. I think I have problems. I just want to say that I'll be forward our rescue guys over there. That's all.
Thank you, Don, very much.
I just want to thank the sheriff's department for helping fire department and the citizens. God knows I appreciate it.
I have to say that too, I just really have to be kind of looking very well on working against Mrs. Boyd and John and others that has helped the work department in this situation. There is a little contact with Frank County, Fort College,
I think it also showed us how dependent we are on our radios because our cell service went down, and I know the sheriff and I several times kept getting cut off trying to coordinate what's going on. And not having Verizon working, it was tough. We appreciate everything y'all did for this storm. Sure.
I don't want to walk away from without saying this, and I think that there's a need for this. You know, we were without power for a few days here at the government center, and I think that we should look for either some sort of grant or something like that to keep this place powered. I think that with that said, and for the obligation for our taxpayers, that these stores should be open when there is an emergency. So I think that's something that we need to look at down the road. Actually, mine, there were the 304 people that we could house in the gym. Ours has it's over 20 years old. It is out of service at this time. I think what I'm going to do is try to get a grant for it. It'll only be for that side of the building. But I think that what we really need to look at is something that we need government center to say. So if the power shuts off, we can keep on working and doing it. It's just food for thought.
All right, thanks very much. We'll move on to
Chairman, one question for Don. Is our PA status, does that include emergency preparedness for things like that? If we, equipment and stuff that we need for storm ready?
And I think that's what I'm inquiring about with this generator that's outdated out here. I actually had 2 generators that went out on the evening of the tower. Where it switches over to when the power goes off, and then there's a switch on the inside, an internal switch. It's run by natural gas. It's like a motherboard. It got fixed up and burned up, is what Mr. Roberts said in the electrician. So that part is supposed to be in this past Friday. The Friday before the storm, it didn't come. The part that came in was the wrong part. So now they're talking about this Friday going to be in it. So let's see what happens with it. That one will probably be south. This one in the back, I'm not sure how far we can do it. I believe that I can apply for at least 50-50 grand on that.
And I'm going to ask him. Yeah, Don knows this very well. Go big. Ask for, because FEMA tends to think that the bigger your problem, the more attention needs to be paid to it. So if you give them a wish list this big, they might give you half of it.
Well, let's say, realistically, our UFC is inside the government center. It's attached by law. So, why not try to maybe something to do, even if it's 50%?
This should be government operations.
Right.
Right. So it should be all.
When it comes down to it, if that's something that's here, we need to hear.
Yeah.
We gotta make big decisions on it. If you get here, tornado comes through here, wipes everything out, we're gonna have to sit down and see where we're at.
thank you. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one thing under department head comments, if I could, related to the storm. We've got the county some years back, I think maybe in 2011, adopted an inclement weather policy that basically says if the county offices are closed and employees have to miss work because of that, they will be paid for those days. There's another paragraph that says employees reporting for work during hazardous weather conditions will be paid normal pay for hours worked. I think the typical practice has been for people that come in, for people that have to come in and work during those times, that we've paid them something above their normal hours worked, or they've been paid. Maybe the right way to put it is they're paid their pay for hours worked plus the 8 hours that the office was closed, or the 10 hours that the office was closed. Angie and I were talking about this some earlier today. She might can give you all some additional background on that, but just wanted to get some direction from the board about how to handle payment for those days where we had to be closed.
So would that mean the sheriff's department gets double as well?
I don't know. I don't know how they've typically handled. I hadn't had a chance to talk with the sheriff about this. I'm not sure how they typically handle situations like this.
And I don't want to sound mean or insensitive, but I think some of it is inherent in the job. And unfortunately, Public Works is sort of inherent in the job. Much like when the county is off on a Friday, or some weird day in the week, and they somehow figure out how to do 310s or 412s or however the magic works on that. It's part of the job. And again, don't want to be insensitive. I don't know if comp time is another way to do it. I don't know what other counties do. But it's just one of those tough areas. If we're looking at the entire county, then law enforcement obviously would be included in that number. And then I think it would get staggering pretty quickly.
I only know what one other county does. The sheriff's department, since they're on, and most law enforcement, they're on a 24-hour shift anyway, and the sheriff determines what people he needs in what place and how he has to provide safety and security for our community. So I think they're a little bit different in that he can determine whether they get, I don't know how to put this, comp time. If we get a holiday for Labor Day, the sheriff still has to have officers on duty for Labor Day. They get their Labor Day at another time. So I think that's, as the constitutional officer, he's separate, but he determines how to fix that problem. What we do with general employees is, we had this exact same conversation, and this is my personal opinion too, that we're saying that when we close down the county, every employee in the county, general employee, is being paid for 8 hours. If we're expecting somebody to go above and beyond that duty to help everybody else in this county and open these streets and because every emergency situation we call them into puts them in some more risk than their normal day-to-day operations. I'm all for paying them for their hours worked. There is that policy that says sweat hours or actual hours worked or whatever, so it's not like you get 8 hours. If you work 8 hours, it's 8 hours overtime. So that comes into play as far as overtime, but if they get paid 8 hours and they have to work 8 hours, then I think they only get 16 hours. Just my opinion.
That's flat, not time and a half.
Right. Until they reach that 40 hours, and now like this week, and it came into play this week, where I had guys that were working 15-hour days because we had 24-hour shifts to get 18 trees up, roads unblocked. So I had all the guys working 2 shifts, and it ran into that 40 actual work hours and plus. So they were getting overtime for even though they got 2 days of pay when the county was closed, they still reached that threshold of over 40 hours actually worked. When you're up to 70, 80 hours. But again, you're asking these guys to get out there and work 70 hours in a storm that everybody else is hunkered down.
And we get reimbursed for it anyways, right? Okay.
Yeah, and you're going to get reimbursed. But if I had to justify my position on it, it would be, if you're not paying them for hours worked, then you're inherently separating them from the other employees that are getting 8 hours. Because you're telling them, you don't get that 8 hours, you gotta come work for it.
And hypothetically, if you open, because we'll have generator power, and for those people that come to work, do they get the same pay as well? Even though they're not in that hazardous environment, they're in the building physically during that time?
Well, they still had to come in under.
I'm just making sure we're
Yeah,
clear.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
gonna be a question later.
Anybody that comes in and works when the county is deemed closed should get paid for it, I believe.
All right, just making sure.
And that department head needs to determine whether there's a need for that employee to be here.
Well, you know, some employees couldn't reach their department heads. Phones weren't down, and depending on where you were, you know, you either got a Facebook message or whatever. And people were still trying to figure out, when do we come to work? So if they showed up,
Right, because John should have been determining whether if he had, and I know he don't, so if he had 10 office staff, you know, I don't think I need all 10 of them here for the storm to answer the phone.
but I want to be here because I'm getting paid double.
Right.
Okay.
I think they did pretty good though. I didn't know the county had so many drop cords, so we fired up 2 generators.
I have one more question. Sanitation is mainly with part-time employees, and on the morning of Monday or Tuesday with the storms, those people were off work on Monday, but whatever go home on Tuesday. They came back on Wednesday. Those part-timers, having their benefits and they came to get paid for 8 hours or not.
I know one other county that doesn't pay part-timers because that's in the job description, is you don't get paid for it. They wouldn't get paid for Labor Day.
That's how it was in the past. I just wanted to clarify.
I know one got mad because I called him, well, he called the office and I told him, you need to lock up and go home. He said, I'm not gonna walk with you yet. How come somebody didn't call me? I said, well,
You don't have any phones.
Showed up, should get paid, right?
He's part-time, he get paid for the 8 hours, whether he showed up or not, because it's not in the job description part first.
Any more discussion on that? Do we have a policy, Jason?
Yes, sir. The policy says, so there's 2 paragraphs. I'll just read these off to everyone. It says, employees will be paid for days missed from work due to hazardous and inclement conditions when the commissioners make an official decision to close the government offices. Employees reporting to work during hazardous conditions will be paid normal pay for hours worked. Employees that are not able to report due to situations beyond their control will be required to take annual leave first and sick leave second if no annual leave is available. This will be the case for partial absences that are weather related also. And then the last paragraph is about a delayed opening.
That says it until we make a policy change.
And that says they get paid if we're closed, and then they get paid for hours worked. It didn't say in lieu of work. So I interpret that as if we're closed, you get your 8-hour shift. If you're called in to work, you get paid for the hours worked. So if it's 8 hours and 4 hours you work, it's 12 hours.
That's what it says. Right.
Which handbook are we reading out of, just out of curiosity? Not the
What year is on there?
It was just, this was right after the inclement weather policy was adopted in February. The commissioners adopted an inclement weather policy on February 15th, 2011.
And then it says they'll get paid the 8 hours that everybody else got paid, plus the 8 hours at work.
So if we work 10 and we get paid for 8 too, it'll be 18.
And I think that, and that's what we were trying to get at. I think that's what he just read, we were trying to get at in that. Your overtime will actually be started at your 40th hour work. It won't be counting that 8 hours. Right here with that? Good. All right, move forward. Mark, you want to start off on the Commissioners comment?
Sure. So again, thank you to all the department heads, employees who are pulling together through the storm in the community that came out. It made a difference. We were on the far end, so we got our power on the 6th day. I may have to move the gray and change my district so I can get my power faster.
Don't come to one.
And I appreciate, Aaron saw an Facebook post and he gave me a connector from a generator, so I got water running on the 4th day, which was good. With that being said, I did ask, do we have generator that our fire departments and the other necessary places? We need those. So while we're out looking for a grant, let's look at that. If it's not a part of the grant structure and it'll take forever, Maria's coming. I don't think she's going to wait on a grant. And I don't care if we do it one at a time. We'll look at what the volume of activity is. We start doing those replacements. I agree with Sam wholeheartedly. This place ought to be running, and our gyms need to be, some facilities where people can come to and get some level of support, refreshment, or answers. If the tower goes down, at least somebody can show up at the 49 gym, at the fire stations, and there's a radio that has contact. So we need to make sure we do that. We only do 3 generators, the 2 gyms, and in this building that we do that. The bid list, I'm still concerned that we're not getting a level of bids. I think we're getting closer as we get to more transparency, and then we're reaching out. Again, I'm going to encourage us to reach out, Bibb County, Houston County, and look at who's on their bid list, and let's get it out. It's an email. We build a database so we can get some dollars. I'm glad that we declined the first bid and we got to a truer number. So for those out there in the audience, don't be offended. Be patient. We're getting there. I really want Jason to get on minimum standard of housing. We talked about that in January, February. I'm still getting calls. Maybe y'all don't get those calls because you live closer to the areas where there's less blight. But turn down Virginia Lane, go down over near Grizzleville, and God forbid, go behind listings. We've got some issues, which poses not only fire hazards, but dilapidation issues, hazards for children, and of course declining property values. If you guys don't want to do a minimum standard, then when we come and ask for a reduction in our taxes based on the value of homes in our area, honor that, and let's let the tax assessor know that. And last but not least, we've been closing the 49 gyms, still getting phone calls. So a few of the parents have requested make some outdoor pads. So if we're going to shift services, that we won't have people in place for kids to show up to play. Let's put those outdoor pads out there. We talked about that a little bit during the budget cycle. So they can have unsupervised play if we're going to move personnel. So with all that being said, again, thanks again to the staff in the community, our department heads for making it happen. And Maria's coming. I hope we're prepared.
Mr. Robson? Just want to say a big thank you to everybody that helped in a big way, a small way, or any kind of way, and especially neighbors helping neighbors and looking out for each other. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the county, the way everybody, pulled together and whatnot. Even with the lack of communication, it seemed like we were able to work through a lot of it. It was a zoo up here getting payroll out. It was almost comical, all the drop cords we had running off the generators and all just to get the payroll done. Luckily, the next day we got power back, so that helped a lot. Everybody working together, and the amount of hours you put in, we appreciate you very much.
I agree. Everybody, thank everybody in every department that had their part in it. One little story: when I was about 35 hours into it, done in my day job in the bunker, and I made a comment and we had state DOD people, we had all kind of people, probably 60, 75 people in there. I made a comment that, I need to take a break from here because I need to go check on my hometown, And somebody made a comment, oh, y'all are good in Jones County, y'all got the king up there, talking about Don, and it made me feel good that other counties recognize that you've got somebody that's got it under control. And I think that comes from the experience, the knowledge, the training, and just to get in there and get it done and take care of it. And so that was real reassuring, and hats off to Don for other people recognizing that we've got somebody like that. Yeah, they basically said you don't need to go anywhere. At first I thought they just didn't want me to leave, but then I realized it. Something that, one other thing is that we probably need to at some point have an after-action plan meeting or a what did we learn meeting and kind of go through
Well,
what.
there's some weaknesses.
Yeah, and you find them, you learn something.
Henry had already talked about it, some more weaknesses.
Yeah.
And those we need to correct.
Well, if you don't find them during an event, you're not looking, you know, and you shouldn't be caught in trouble like that the second go around, you know. And if Maria comes and we know we don't have these, we need to be looking at that.
It's kind of funny, you say that, and it's the truth. I learned from hacks. It didn't make that mistake again. And make sure I was doing right this time. But there's always something that you can do better. You can always go harder to meet that.
And one last thing that Commissioner Martin talked about was the bids, and I talked with Jason a little bit about this, is maybe we create that list and invite people to get their information on that list, so we do have a good running list, and then we have some kind of, we take our time and have a contractor's fair of some sort, so that we let people know, we're looking for more participation, we're looking for that competition that drives the prices down and gets us the best money for the buck.
That it? Citizen comments. Anybody like to come forward?
I'd like to invite everybody down to State Sanctuary, tonight, barbecue, level 3. I'd like to echo Mr. Martin's comment about the generation party. At least 2 or 3 station children. Appreciate it.
Thank you. How do you get your doors open without the generator?
I pull and unlatch it. Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
Always.
No, you got a young lady come up behind you.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. She'd get ready to bop you with that. She'd fit to bop you with that piece of paper.
Sherry Benson, 2714 Old Lake Highway. I am the President, CEO, CFO, and Chief Janitor of Distributing Company. 57 million homes in Jones County, and it's operating at between years. What we distribute is gasoline and diesel. Granted, I am opposed to local preference systems. I no longer bid for county contracts, and this is one of the reasons why. I think it's institutionalized cronyism and I'm opposed to it. Second, I think we should keep our $10,000 bidding at $20,000, just to 5. And I have strictly opinion. No. And then third, we've got a 1-minute limit. And to end on a positive note, right after the ice storm, I asked Don Graham if there was a radio station I could listen to, get national and local news during the crisis, portable radio. And he came up, next meeting, in his usual efficient, effective way, with 9:40 a.m. And it worked. I could get the national news and WNXC news, and the FM stations were not off for some reason. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. Now you can get.
I got a radio at home that I can't really hear a whole lot on it anymore, but I also got communication with the EMC and Georgia Power. I would like to commend the EMA and the fire department, because when we were called in and Georgia Power was called in, the EMC was called in to reduce work. The fire department never stopped. They stood out there while it was going on. So I'd just like to commend those, not to mention the actual citizens that was out there cutting up trees too, but they never stopped. Cheers, one, two.
Thank you. Anyone else? None, I need a motion to adjourn to go to executive session for personnel.
So moved.
Second. Second. Okay, right? Thank y'all.
Scratch.
Okay.